Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I think a change of scenery is good every now and then for everybody. You must be getting tired of seeing the same background behind me in my tarot parlor. There's my tarot parlor right there. It's beyond those doors. So today I figured I would just change the scenery a little bit and do a reading or do a video from my dining room. Bear in mind, I have to scoot a lot of things over. These are the things that are usually on my dining room table. You know, so, and where's the crayon? There's a crayon. Oh my gosh. Bluey toys. I mean, tell me you're a grandma without telling me you're a grandma. So the illusion is that I have a nice clean dining room table, but the truth is it's full of stuff. There's more over there too. At any rate, you know, with my videos, I try to, I mean, I'm very much aware of what's going on in our government. And, you know, sometimes I feel like my readings could be heavy-handed, you know. For the past couple of videos, I've tried to lighten it up by not focusing so much on what's going on politically. But I do want to put it out there that it's not going to change because someone miraculously is going to do the job for us. Each one of us individually has to stand up and do whatever it takes that we're capable of doing, whether it's making sure that we're responsible voters. Now he wants to take away our right to vote by mail. For many of us, that's how we vote, you know, if we're, you know, and all the redistricting, and there's so many things on a daily basis, you know, which, you know, is constantly throwing on the wall to see what sticks, when really the thing that really is the most important thing right now is to release those files and stop playing games with Ukraine and elsewhere in the world, in Gaza and all that. Whatever we can do in our small way, we have to do it. We have to be responsible. We have to participate in all the ways we can. If it means a sacrifice of one day's vacation to go do something like a march, something like that. It's asking a lot, but we've got to do it. Anyway, I was expecting a new deck today. And of course, when I'm expecting a deck, you know, on the days where I'm not expecting the deck, the mail will come at like 10 o'clock in the morning. On the days that I'm expecting a deck, it'll show up at 5 o'clock. And so I don't want to risk not having a video for you guys for tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So I guess I'm going to have to do a video with another deck. I've used this many times. I've used it recently, the Classic Tarot by Luz Scarabeo. For those of you who may be new to my channel and you're tuning in because you're interested in learning how to use Tarot of Marseille style decks or Pip style decks, the old historic style. This is a great deck. You know, it's not an expensive deck. You don't have to, you know, buy a deck that has handmade inks and papers and all that stuff. This is like could be bought. I bought it before. Ooh, my deck arrived. My deck arrived. I just saw the mail person. I'll be right back. Oh my gosh. So cool. Okay, so nice box, easy to open. A thank you card. Any guesses on what it is? I gave a few guesses. I gave a few clues to you guys. I have this deck in 2 other colors. It's not a historic deck, but it's a deck that I've really come to appreciate. Why do I like it? It's a modern deck. It's a really modern deck. Why do I really like it? Because if you go back to the historic Italian decks, the Triumph concepts, the Triumph cards were concepts. It was the concept. However, the artist decided to portray the concept on the card, that's the image they used. That's why it's helpful to know the origin stories, which I go into, especially if you, included in my lessons, which are paid for, but I talk about it enough in regular videos that you should pick them up by now. And also, if you wanted to watch my numerology playlist, I did it early in my YouTube days, so technologically there's a lot to be desired, but the content's good. But at any rate, I really appreciate this deck because it illustrates concepts in an abstract way, and I like that. I like that. And I know what the cards mean. So it's not, would be a deck for a beginner. And if I have a beef with it, I do. You know, it's not a, it's so close to being a pip deck because the pips are pips, you know. They do change the names of the pips, like keys or swords and candles or batons. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that, but okay. But the real beef is that 8 is 8 is fortitude and not justice. But at any rate, putting those things aside, and maybe if they listen, if they hear me, not that they would, but if they hear enough of us, maybe they would change that, make those kinds of changes for their deck in the future if they were to republish it or make a new edition. I have 2 other publications of this. This is the Fortuna. It's in plastic wrap, so you can't really see it. The Fortuna Tarot, and this is the Obsidian Occult edition. Now, it was released in, I think, 2021. Everybody and their mother-in-law has showcased it by now, so I don't think you probably need me to showcase it. And plus, you've seen me use the other decks 1,000 times. So the box is a little different, though. I will comment on that. The box is, rather than being a solid black background, kind of has the Milky Way effect swirling throughout it. And it's got the hot pink, the hot pink embossing. It's got the nice tight box. It's got a book, as the others do. I presume they're the same. It's the same book. I haven't perused it, obviously. Same box design, with the exception of the Milky Way pattern on the box. The backs of the cards have the same Milky Way design, and the cards themselves have a hot pink holographic reflective embossment on black. So it's a striking deck. Now, why did I get this? I got this because some of the subject matters that, you know, I've been dealing with or addressing have a darker side, you know, where there's potential for, what's the word? Sinister, right? Especially, I tend to use these decks when I do like talking about disclosure or alien life or whatever. Not that that could be sinister, but it could be. It could also, I think, be good to use for politics, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it works. Sorry, Classic Tarot. I'm putting you aside for now. So these cards, yeah, just to show you that they have a hot pink. Oh, I love it. Hot pink. Now, I prefer soft pink. Pastel pink is my thing. However, it's pink. I still love it. It's hot pink verging on purple. It's a thick deck. It's because it's in order, I'm going to have to do my thing, riffle shuffling 11 times, overhand shuffling 21, and then doing it a few times in front of the camera. The thing I want to do a reading on today, though, since I got my deck, is back. I want to go back to this 3-eye atlas thing in the sky. Remember, 3, referencing it's the third eye, being the third interstellar thing that's entered our solar system from elsewhere, and Atlas meaning the group of the people who discovered it. Now, the astronomers' consensus is that it is a comet, and it's still too far away to observe completely all the complexities, but we do know enough about it that if it is natural, and if it is a comet, it performs or it behaves completely different than our laws of physics as we understand them. So even if it is not something from outer space, even if it is not a intelligent vessel from another place, it's still really worth getting excited over this because it doesn't behave according to our laws of physics, As a matter of fact, there's so many things about it that are oddball, and I've done other videos on it if you want to go back and look at those. There's so many things about it that are kind of oddball. It's kind of getting to the point where if you listen to Occam's razor about the most, simplest explanation is the truth. At this stage, the simplest explanation is that it is intelligence, because it's so unlike our natural world and our natural way of understanding comets that it could just as easily be something from intelligence from somewhere else. In addition to the things that I mentioned in my last videos that I did on it, and this, thinking about it in terms of being intelligence from elsewhere is very unpopular. The mainstream astronomers don't want to really be associated with that because it's kind of like on the fringes, But I think we should be open-minded to just be excited about it being different from other natural phenomenon. But the thing that kind of is interesting is that it's illuminated by its own light. It has its own internal light source. It doesn't reflect light from the sun. It's got its own internal light force, and it's so impressive that it's got 10 giga something, I think 10 giga something in it, which is the equivalent of 10 nuclear reactors. So that's a lot of power that's generating the internal light of this thing. The plane of the ecliptic, the way its trajectory is just perfectly in its course. It just perfectly goes through the alignment with I think it was what Mars. I don't know what Mars, Jupiter, and one of the other planets. But it's just the way it's it couldn't have been. It's almost like it was planned or programmed to do that route, to be on that trajectory, so as to avoid collision. I mean, what are the odds, to be so perfectly traveling that at the time it passes our solar system, it's it looks like it's so deliberate, it could have been random. It could have been random. But the fact that this thing is so old and is so big, they determined because of the speed or whatever, it's got to be very old. And that it hasn't been destroyed, or, to smithereens, suggests that it's on some kind of program trajectory. It could be. And if that's not interesting enough, when it goes through past us, we'll be on the other side of the sun, which will make it extremely difficult for us to observe it. So if they're aware that we are a life force here and they don't really want us meddling into them, what better trajectory than to come the way I've mentioned that they're coming, and then to completely bypass us when we're on the other side of the sun where we can't observe them. So I think this is pretty cool. I think this is pretty cool. Okay, it's probably natural phenomenon, but like I said, Occam's razor now suggests that there's so many anomalies about it that it's the easiest explanation is to believe that it is intelligence from elsewhere. I haven't come up with a question yet, but I'll think of one. I'll be right back. Now, in the previous readings I've done on this, I think it was vague. I don't think when I asked, like, what is the nature of it, we got like a vague response because, you know, maybe we're not always entitled to know everything that's happening. I always preface, am I saying that right? My questions with, you know, what are we entitled to know, you know? And so, you know, when an answer is vague or when it could be read either way, it's just my understanding is that, you know, the universe is toying with us or not just being clear. You know, it could be, we have to consider both things, right? Whether it's, I don't want to put them upside down. Whether it could be, you know, intelligence or if it's, you know, just an anomaly. But at the very least, it's just something that is quite different in the natural world and I think worth listening to and looking at. However, you know how I feel about disclosure. I'm really scared about it, you know. And I know some people say, oh, let them come and save us, you know. But guess what? It's nobody's responsibility to save us. This is our planet, and we've created a mess. And it's our job to fix it. And I don't, you know, think we should or want somebody else coming from someplace else to fix us, you know. Because, you know, part of that fixing could be losing free will and having less rights than some people would like us to have. So there's that. I would just like to see, if this thing, let's go if, a big if this thing is intelligence from elsewhere, and if it's going through our solar system clearly to avoid us, what is its mission? What is it? It seems like it doesn't want anything to do with us, to be honest. But what is its mission? Like, I guess I can't ask where it's going, but what is its mission? Let's just do 3 cards. The High Priestess. Now remember, the thing I love about this deck is not only can we look at it as the meaning of the High Priestess, but also look at it, the meaning that you can get from the image, you know? And we have something that radiates from the divine, right? It's a star from the universe, so it's not the eye of the universe, but it's certainly a celestial thing. So it's roving, it's exploring. In addition to the female pope, or the high priestess as it's called in this deck, education, learning, the sun. Maybe it's to study our solar system or to study solar systems in general. Ours is not the only solar system. It's coming through. It'll last a few weeks, I think. You know, I think it's coming through in October, November. It'll be here a couple of weeks and then it'll be gone. So, and they think, the conjecture is that it's billions of years old. So it's been around a while. So if it is a probe, now remember the question is if, but if it were to be that, life from elsewhere, it just seems like it's maybe studying solar systems, other solar systems. And we have, interestingly, 2 Triumph Order cards, and then 7 of batons. It's interesting. Let me do the quint. I brought Pinky from the tarot parlor. I'll add it up and I'll give the quint card. Hold on. Now, interestingly, the quint card is the lover card, which, suggests, could suggest partnership, but I don't think that's the aspect of this meaning that applies, because if they were coming for partnership, or they were coming for to connect with us, they wouldn't be arriving when we were on the other side of the sun, when we were unable to observe them. So think of what it is. This image is a mirror. So it's reflecting, it's perhaps it's going to be checking us out, just checking us out. Checking out our light, checking out our sounds. Obviously, they probably are passing through in peace, because they seem to be pretty much ignoring us, except that they are going through our solar system. And, I get a sense that we're like an anthill to them, and if we don't antagonize them or bother them, they won't throw vinegar down our anthill. You know what I'm saying? The thing about these cards is, you can't see it. It looks like it's like just painted on, but they are holographic. There is a range of color. So I just wanted to mention that. So if they are intelligence, they're just cruising through the solar system, trying to get knowledge. We have candles, we have fire burning, and we have the reflections of a mirror. So I take it to mean that it's just a mission. They have a mission, and that's what they're doing. They're just traveling through, they're passing through. It's interesting that this is only the third interstellar mass that we've experienced that we could detect, in recent years. And it doesn't mean that there haven't been others before. It just means that this is only the third one that we've observed. Okay, and that wasn't very sinister. I like this deck because I thought, well, maybe it'll pick up on the sinister aspects of things, But there was no sinister aspect in that read. And I don't think the deck felt like oppressively sinister either. So I think this deck lends itself well to being open-minded to nice things and sinister things. Let's ask something that does have a sinister edge. Well, the most sinister thing that I'm aware of is who. If you've been looking at him lately, and I try not to, but I try to get my information from other sources who watch it and digest it for me, because I can't stomach looking at him or hearing him. But when they show clips and you see him, he's obviously not doing well. I mean, he's obviously extremely unwell. And I would care if he were my grandparent or whatever. But the fact that he's an evildoer and has been many years before he even became 45 or 47, his health is not my concern, except for the fact that you know what I'm thinking. So let's ask about Darth Vader. That's my name for him. You know who Darth Vader. It's a third-party question. Are we entitled to know his health and well-being? I wouldn't feel that way if I was doing it for a person that I knew, or, if I was being kind of nosy. But he is in a position of power that affects all of us. And he's fair game as far as I'm concerned. Political people who have the world in the palm of their hands, they're fair game. So let us know the seriousness, dear universe, of his health and well-being. How critical is it? Traveling, success, moving on. Six batons. 6 is a perfect number. Maybe it's not as bad as we think it is. another, and a 7. 7 coins. Ugh, gosh. So it's not like these don't play nice together. We have fire and air. Excuse me, fire and earth. They're fine. Let's do the quint and see what we get. Alrighty, so the quint card is Judgment. Now, the one thing I didn't comment on when I laid the first 3 cards is we have a pair of 7s, right? So, the Chariot in the context of the question, I interpret the cards to answer the question. So in the context of the question of his health and well-being and how dire is it, 7 suggests movement, moving forward. Now, 7 of coins could suggest improvement, because it's health and well-being. So it could be seen as improvement. Progress is being made. 6 is a perfect number. I see it as the suit of batons. There's a lot of people working on him. And then we have the Judgment card, which in the context of the question makes me think, be prepared to meet your maker. Because to me, the origin story of the Judgment card is, when you meet your maker and you have to account for your life. So when in that context, when I see the 2 7s, I think of moving forward. And maybe this isn't as far away as we think. Now, it's not the 13th card, so it's not, a card of imminent doom. I don't know how long they can keep him going with smoke and mirrors. But, he's got the best team out there. He's got the best team. So, Walter Reed doctors are nothing to sneeze at. And we know that he's being seen. He's got all kinds of patches on his skin and, all over him. He's got wires everywhere. And he looks terrible. He looks and sounds awful. So I think this is the gentlest way of the cards suggesting that he's moving forward. He's got an excellent team behind him. Yeah, he'll meet his maker, but maybe it's not going to be tomorrow. And I'm not wishing anyone ill health or death. I'm only open to his climate. Now, one thing I want to mention with these cards, you notice that the back has a different kind. It's not a solid back as the others are, but the fronts are solid black. And if you are prone to having greasy fingers, now I don't, as many times as I've been fingerprinted for teaching, and stuff like that, because I was a teacher, every time I get my fingerprints done, I have to go back because I didn't have enough, whatever it is that it takes to register on their high-tech equipment. But I do suggest that if you are prone to having greasy fingertips or oily fingertips, that you definitely keep your hands clean and maybe have a wet rag, to keep your, to keep your hands fresh, because this will pick it up. Like I said, I have very dry hands, and plus I wash my hands. I never do readings without having washed my hands ahead of time. Okay, I like to do things in 3. Let's see if we can come up with one more question. I'll be right back. Okay, here's the last question, and it's the most sinister thing I can think of. Is inmate number 163214. I am so over saying his name. For those of you who follow true crime, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Documents are being released. His depravity and his creepiness is, I can see why Ann Taylor fought so hard not to have any of those documents released. And now now that he's in prison, he's already complaining about inmates making too much noise. You're in there forever, dude. You better get used to it. And he calls his parents every day. So his parents are serving a life sentence too, because they have to be available to him. You know what? I'm really interested in knowing what his long-term projection for life in prison. No parole, no appeal. How's he going to do? How's he going to do? For all intents and purposes, he's already on death row. Not because he's on, got the life sentence or death penalty sentence, but that's where they put him for his own safety. So he's a marked man. I'm just interested to knowing, what's the trajectory for inmate number 163214 for the long term. He's the most. I don't want to use the word wicked. I want to use the word abomination that I'm aware of. Well, aside from you-know-who. Eight of Cups. Three of Cups. So a de-escalation of emotion. The Moon. Oh, a de-escalation of mental health. A de-escalation of mental health. Wow, okay. Let's see what the Quint card would be. All right, so the Chariot is the Quint card. And that's movement in the direction that I've said. So definitely de-escalation of mental health and well-being. For sure. And could be a quick trip. Could be a quick trip. So we may see, whatever, who knows what they're going to allow us to know or see about, because he's entitled to privacy, right? But from what these cards suggest, he's going to take a quick down lunacy road. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this change of scenery. What I'd really like is to convince my husband that I need that room painted. But money being what it is, it's tough, so I probably won't be able to paint that room. When we came in, that room was blue. The whole house is freaking blue. The previous owners liked blue, I guess, and so everything's blue, and it's not my favorite color. I mean, it's okay, but my tarot parlor in my other house was a beautiful purple pink. For those of you who are familiar with my older videos from when I lived in my prior home, it was pretty color. And I said, I can get used to this until I can get around to painting it. Well, it's been 3 years and I haven't painted it, And my husband's like, we can't get that room painted. It's got too many things on the walls. But guess what? I can take it all down and have it painted, but we'll see. Anyway, until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and be brave.